To the minister's speech.
Well, let me welcome the presentation by the minister. But let me start off by saying I welcome the fact that the minister recognizes some of the challenges that we have and that needs immediate intervention. One of it, of course, is local government level and is making more resources available to local government, but recognizes that we have a capacity problem in local government and he wants to deal with that. Very importantly, the minister raises the concern about the high levels of debt, which is going to go up to 4.7 trillion. And he says that with the windfall that we've had, particularly from corporate tax, they are going to be dealing with the issue of trying to reduce the debt in the country, which will bring down the debt service cost, which is now in the medium term expected to be about 358 billion rand a year. He's putting more money into infrastructure, yes, but he does realize that we have serious challenges as far as the implementation of infrastructure projects. So there's no point in putting money somewhere and you don't have the capacity to implement. If you remember, in the last financial year, we've had underspending in infrastructure development. We welcome the allocation for for disaster management, but again we want to raise a concern. And if you look at particularly KZN, it is not necessarily the flood or the disaster that has brought us to where we are, but is the lack of maintenance over a period of time. So a lot of this money is going to go up there to put in new infrastructure, because the infrastructure that we have currently, you are not in a position to be able to rehabilitate that infrastructure.
And talking about other, as a member of parliament, do you also think that parliament is doing, good as far as oversight in terms of how the budget is spent around the country, and what can be the best measures for that?
Clearly not. And I've raised this time and time again, the oversight mechanisms that we have in Parliament and the huge amount of money that is spent locally and out of the country when we go into SADC and many of these other institutions, we're not getting value for money. The oversight mechanisms, you go out, you identify challenges and problem areas, you come back, you debate it, you adopt the report, and then what happens? It's thrown in a bin. There's very little or nothing that happens. Or portfolio committees who have a responsibility to conduct oversight and hold the executive to account, do not have a mandate to take it any further than come to Parliament, debate the report, adopt the report, and that's where it ends. The Auditor General, has been from time to time, and every year, in fact this year, the audit report says a hell of a lot of the state of governance in all spheres of government, particularly the local municipality. And one of the things that we lack is consequence management. And if you saw the Auditor General report, again, highlighted the problems you got as far as management and skills. In other words, what we are saying is that while you've got the necessary qualifications, you do not have the skills and the capacity to be able to deliver, and that's one of the major problems.
Thank you so much, Honorable Sheikh. But lastly, I just want to ask you, do you also think that the minister generally, this MTBPS, if spent well and implemented well, can make a difference as far as our economy and the lives, the development of the lives of South Africans?
Well, yes, a lot of what we've heard today is what we've heard in the previous medium-term budget policy statement. And it's worth nothing unless you're able to implement it. But remember, it's not only the minister on his own that can do this. If you're talking about, the state of the country, particularly if you look at the high levels of crime that he's talking about, it is not the minister of finance whose responsibility, but you need social development, you need basic education, you need the law enforcement for them all to come together to be able to deal with the root causes of the high levels of crime, including the high unemployment rate in the country. If unemployment continues in the country, the crime rate must increase. So yes, you need a holistic approach to these things.
Thank you so much, Honorable Sheikh. That was Honorable Sheikh. I am waiting for Honorable Madisa from from COPE to also get his reaction from as to what the minister's promises are for his party and what he would love to get to be done in terms of this budget as far as making the lives of South Africans better. Welcome, sir.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yes, welcome to Parliament TV. Your reaction, please, as to the minister's speech today.
I must say that it's extremely unfortunate. I had thought that the minister would come and address the problems that we have there, that we know. But instead what he did was to repeat what we already know. For example, we had thought that you would say, yes, we owe 5 trillion rand, and this is how we're going to deal with it as a government. He has not done that. He has said we owe that. We had thought that he would say, insofar as the issue of 400 billion rand that must be paid to deal with the issue of electricity, Eskom, will be able to deal with that. But he only repeated that and said, we, as time goes on, will be able to deal with that. Which then says, in my own opinion, actually is a fact, that will take the entire year to try and look into that. And for as long as we have that kind of a problem, it means the companies are closing, people are losing their jobs, etc., etc. The Reserve Bank, for example, has spoken about the increase in, increases, and the prime rate and GDP and so on. Even the Land Bank has said that, but he has not addressed those things. Now we are actually having very serious problems. I therefore am saying that instead of one rising to say that the minister has succeeded, I don't think that is the case. The alternative is truly the case.
And then are you saying generally this speech of the minister would not take the country forward one way or the other?
No, not at all. I mean, he has not come up with a proper way forward. I mean, if you talk about, for example, 70% of the young people not working, and you are unable to solve that thing of the electricity, we can go on in any way. So it does not help in addressing the issue of unemployment, the issues of poverty, etc. He hasn't done that. He has only repeated that which we know, permeates our country at the moment. Therefore, I don't think we've achieved anything at all.
Thank you so much,
You're welcome.
for
Thank you.
coming,
Thank
talking
you.
to Parliament TV.
Thank you.
And we are waiting for Honorable Member from the Good Party to give us also his reaction. I did say to you that we have got about 13 parties in Parliament. Welcome, sir.
Welcome, thank you.
Yes, your reaction to the Minister's MTBPS presentation.
Well, we welcome the fact that the Social Relief of Distress grant has been extended. There simply was no way that you could withdraw that grant at the end of March next year. In fact, it can never be withdrawn. So saying it's a temporary grant and extended for one more year is something that we don't accept. It has to ultimately be the basis of a basic income grant, because there are already about 8 million families who rely on it for some relief to their poverty. We welcome the commitment to the green energy transition, and we accept that there has to be some taking on of the Eskom's debt in order to achieve both a stable electricity supply in the short term and a transition to green and renewable energy into the future. We're very happy that there's going to be extra resources available to the criminal justice system, in particular if we're going to see prosecutions that arise out of the State Capture Commission. Those prosecutions and those investigations would never occur or are going to take too long to occur without resources. So we welcome the resources that will be allocated to support them and the resources that will be allocated to support policing. So overall there was some good stuff in there. The fact that the Minister is committing to improving free basic services and the allocations to municipalities to provide free basic services to poor households in the next financial year is also welcome. But obviously the devil is in the detail, and we'll have to see how that's going to be implemented and how he will make sure that those households do actually receive those benefits.
As an honourable member in Parliament, do you also think that Parliament in its oversight role as a mandate of Parliament is doing well in terms of making sure that budget is being spent accordingly and adequately?
I think that we can do with a lot more oversight and a lot more intervention by Parliament in the budget process. The previous Minister of Finance committed to a zero-based budgeting approach, but that has never been implemented. And if it is to be implemented successfully, will require each of the portfolio committees to deep dive into their budgets and to find the wastage and to check the benefit that is being derived from historical allocations in budgets that may no longer be relevant. So zero budgeting is really a hard task that parliamentarians should be doing in their portfolio committees so that we can get to a baseline from which we can say, now these are our priorities and this is how we should budget going forward. So no, I don't think there's enough oversight because I don't think there's enough deep dive.
Thank you so much, sir, for talking to Parliament TV. Thank you. Oh, I have now Honorable Hendricks from the Al Jamaa party, and I would love to welcome you, sir. Thank you very much for gracing us. Your reaction, please, with the ministers.
I'm very happy that the Minister of Finance is putting money aside to rebuild Parliament. And we know it's 2 billion rand, and I think that the Minister must be a bit creative. And the new Secretary of Parliament must also be creative. They must do it in parts so that Parliament, at least the National Assembly, can be fixed and we can move in and we don't have to come here to the City Hall. So they need to have the wisdom of Solomon. But the Minister is now given leadership and guidance and we must all work with him. We noted that the Minister is very worried about monies lost to the fiscus in the form of looting and corruption. Now that the Zondo Commission report has been commented on by the President and the Minister has sent a signal to the country, we want the money back. So we support the Minister of Finance that we want that money back because it looks like the Minister doesn't have any money to address the socio-economic problems. He speaks about the economy contracting, but he has given no solution on how the economy can regain and we can have a better forecast. So that means the Minister is condemning poor people to even a poorer existence because there's no hope for them going forward. So the Minister of Finance gave no hope to the poor that things will improve because he said the economy is contracting, so please come to me, don't come to me for any further assistance. So that was a bit disappointing. The Minister also spoke about money laundering, but he forgot to take the nation into his confidence and tell the nation that 50% of our GDP is lost to illicit financial transactions. And here the mining companies and the banks are in collusion. Much of the money goes to Bermuda tax-free. And, when I confronted the Minister with that yesterday, when he met with leaders of political parties, his Director General said that's a problem of SARS. I told him, no, that is the problem of all of us. So as far as the statement is concerned, it is now going to the Portfolio Committee. We hope to engage in Parliament with that particular statement. The devil is in the detail, so we want to see what the line items are. And we have asked the Minister of Finance that he must start co-governing with leaders of political parties so that we can give ideas and suggestions to him. And it is no longer winner takes all. Zondo has indicated that the portfolio committees must be headed up by chairmen of opposition parties. I say, okay, yes, but let's start with the fiscus. Let us co-govern in the fiscus, and it's definitely not winner takes all as far as the fiscus is concerned.
Okay. Thank you so much, Honorable Hendricks. Thank you so much. That was Honorable Hendricks from Al Jamaa. And then I do have Honorable Steyn. I have Honorable, can I please get the Honorable Member's name?
Leon George.
Okay, welcome, Mr. George. Your reaction, please, from the ministers, as far as the minister's presentation.
Well, the DA is very disappointed. The minister fell very short of expectations. We set out our expectations this morning. On growth, the minister's basically just confirming that they wish to place the state at the center of our economy. Now, the state is dysfunctional, so it's unable to actually grow anything. And also they're going to have additional bailouts, which we certainly do not support. What we would have wanted the minister to show is how they're going to encourage small business to grow in South Africa, because that's the only way you're going to have more jobs and growth and more revenue. So he fell very short of that. In terms of debt, government has committed to reduce debt over the next 2 years. They have done exactly the opposite by transferring a large amount of money from Eskom onto the national balance sheet, which means that debt's obviously going to go up. We're going to pay more in interest, and it's going to crowd out service delivery to the most vulnerable people in South Africa. So we certainly are not happy about that. And also, which was amazing, is that the minister did not mention the cost of living crisis at all. He never mentioned the struggling South Africans that are battling to put food on their table, high inflation. He never said a single thing about that. And that was the most disappointing thing of all. The DA has proposed an expansion of the zero-rated basket of food. We would have wanted him to say something on that. We do welcome the fact that the social grant has been extended. The DA has a basic income grant of 585 Rand that we've proposed. And also, we do support more money for the National Prosecuting Authority. But all in all, a government from a broken government that hasn't got any clue on how to rescue our economy.
Then Parliament, as a member of Parliament, you belong to an oversight in finance. Do you think, as Parliament, we, the members, Parliament is playing oversight, adequate oversight, as far as implementation of what is being budgeted for, as well as the, playing oversight on the executive or whoever that has been appropriated funds?
No, I don't think Parliament has been robust enough. I think it has been exacerbated by the fact that Parliament burnt down and that we don't really have anywhere to go. I have raised with the committee chairperson that we should be meeting in person at least. We have not met in person since March 2020, and that's way too long. So you can't have public participation either that way. So we must start meeting at least in person, find venues. I mean, that's not impossible. But I don't think that Parliament has been robust enough, certainly not on the wastage from the state-owned enterprises. Government is now saying that it's going to have rules and it's going to be better this time. You give a whole lot of money to Eskom, but this time there's going to be rules. I don't think that's going to happen. The same thing is going to happen with the money. It's going to get wasted and there's going to be no incentive to not borrow more, etc. So I do think we've fallen short, but it certainly isn't the end of the process. I think it's just the beginning. We of course do have elections coming up in 2024 and the people can speak then too. So it's never over and we do remain hopeful for the future of our beautiful country.
Thank you so much, Mr. George, for speaking to Parliament TV.
Thank you.
Yes, that was Mr. George. He spoke to us about the DA's reaction in the minister's presentation of the MTBPS. I do have the chairperson of the Financial Fiscal Commission, Dr. Mvaba, who is going to now give us her reaction subsequent the presentation of the minister's speech. Ma'am, we did speak earlier on, you had an expectation. So now what he has spoken, what is going to happen? What is going to be an implementation?
Thank you so much. We are quite pleased that government has actually tabled a surplus or projecting a surplus for the next 3 years. I think it's good news, but it means that we must use that money responsibly. And we're quite pleased that the health budget is going to be increased and the police are going to actually get more funding. We are also very pleased that the SOEs, which are really struggling and which are a drain on the fiscus, are actually now going to be funded based on conditions. Because prior to that, they were just given money without any conditionalities. So we are quite pleased that all the government guarantees and the financial injections which are going to be made in future, there will be conditions around that. Finally, we are very pleased that local government, which provides most of the basic services for our people, is going to get more funding. As you know, there is an imbalance between national government in terms of the finances and local government. Local government doesn't have enough capacity to generate money, but they deliver all the services. So we're quite happy that local government will have more room to deliver basic services to our people. All in all, we also believe that it's still a very, very tight rope for government because the debt to GDP ratio still remains very high at over 70%. So we need to make sure we rein in the debt. We need to make sure that our finances are stable and we have a fiscal path that is sustainable.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that reaction and then for that advice. We have Honorable Swart now with us, and I'm fine, thanks. How are you, sir?
Such a wonderful job
Thank
today,
you,
and I'm
thank
very
you
proud
so.
of our parliamentary
Thank you,
PPs.
thank you so much, Honorable Swart. Your reaction to the minister's presentation?
Well, you know, it's always difficult to strike the right balance when it comes to the medium-term budget, and we look obviously to the details in the February budget. But what is encouraging is this 83 billion rand tax windfall. That's additional revenue that's been collected above the February's projections. Now, the importance is to make sure that that amount is used, or part of it, to reduce government debt levels, because debt service costs are now almost 350 billion rand per year. So we're pleased that at least, I think it's 45% of that is going to be used, or even more, 65% is going to be used to reduce government debt. But at the same time, we know our consumers, our households are really struggling with increased electricity costs, increased fuel prices, you name it, interest rates. And so we're pleased the 350 Rand grant has been extended for another year. However, a lot of the projections are based on economic growth projections, and we know that can be a bit tenuous, and of course the public sector wage bill. Now that has been penciled in at 3%. Now the unions are already saying they're not prepared to accept that. So that could mean expenditure is more, which means the deficit is more. So this is an issue we need to be looking at. Obviously the other issue is the state-owned companies. Eskom, we know we all struggle with load shedding. It's got to be sorted out quickly. And that, I think, is an issue which we see the minister is going to transfer some of the loan across to the government's debt. And maybe that's increasing the government's debt, but it might help Eskom to resolve its issues.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Honorable
You
Swart.
look so beautiful
Yeah,
today.
thank you so much. I have now Honorable Dr. Ramokopa. I'm calling her Honorable. Yes, ma'am. Welcome, ma'am. And as the leading party, the budget was presented. What is your reaction as far as the budget is concerned?
The budget was a fine balance, and good afternoon to everyone, and I trust that you are well and that we support the budget. A very fine balance between stimulating the economy to ensure that the growth levels are much higher than what is predicted, investment in the what we call the network industries, transport, water, electricity, sanitation, including also bridges, particularly in Limpopo and in the Eastern Cape. We are also glad that there is a resolution of the SANRAL e-tolling problem in Gauteng, and that part of the investment includes supporting Eskom and Denel and also SANRAL to improve their balance sheets. I think that will be important to make sure that the commitment that the minister makes, that it will not be just free lunch. They will have to have very stringent oversight and conditions to meet. But particularly we must also celebrate the fact that the social relief grant will be extended because this not only relieves poverty, and our people really appreciate this intervention, especially after COVID. It will also, the social grant also stimulates the economy. It helps to stimulate the economy to drive demand as well. So we want to appreciate that that was done, as well as investment in basic services, that is, such as education, housing, health, and lastly, the investment in the security cluster, the police. It must be welcomed not only for the economy, but also to make sure that our democracy is peaceful and there is there is security, especially also for women. When there is the high levels of violence take away the benefits significantly of our democracy. But if we don't do anything and interrupt the vicious cycle of corruption, we also border on grey listing, and the minister did deal quite significantly with that. So overall, welcome mid-term budget policy statement, and we must now get down to business and make sure that South Africans are productive.
Yes, you do have a caucus in Parliament. Like, I just want to check that. Are you really happy and satisfied with the oversight role that Parliament is playing, as well as public participation, especially in terms of how money or funds are being spent, public funds are being spent around the country?
Obviously, more must be done. However, it is very clear that the parliamentarians must earn their allowances, because this is paid by citizens to make sure that they serve as citizens. So we expect more from our parliamentarians to make sure that the departments do spend and spend within the regulations and do account, not only for the finances, but also for performance. This is very important.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And we will now speak to Labour from COSATU, the leader of COSATU from Parliament. Welcome, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. Your reaction to the minister's presentation today?
So, look, there are some good things there which we appreciate, but also the many things we're quite worried about. Everybody's been asking us about the public service wage bill. So, look, we think there is a negotiation process which is going to take place at the CCMA from Friday. We hope government will go there and negotiate in good faith. We think public servants, nurses and teachers, police officers, earn very little. They have the right to have their wages protected from inflation. They have the right to earn a living wage. So I hope government will go negotiate in good faith so we can find each other. But Parliament is also space to negotiate those kind of issues. There's a lot of work that government needs to do to rebuild collective bargaining in the public service, because the previous Minister of Finance, Tito Mboweni, really undermined it. So it's going to take time for government to rebuild a sense of trust between them and public servants. We are quite worried about what is in this budget is going to take us out of the economic recession, what is going to reduce unemployment. We don't see much about tackling corruption or about how to rebuild local government, which is a real financial crisis. So those are quite worrying. But we think there are some good things too. We're quite pleased that the government has responded to our request to extend the SRD grant, which has given relief to 10 million unemployed persons. Let's extend it beyond 2024. Let's make it permanent, link it to the food poverty line. Let's make sure its recipients can be given access to skills training programs to help find jobs. We're quite pleased that the government is making a commitment by February to come with a debt relief package for Eskom to reduce the debt between a third and two-thirds. Because that's critical, because Eskom can't maintain its current debt levels. If you can release the debt burden from Eskom, they can focus on maintenance, on new generation that's going to help reduce load shedding, which will benefit everybody. There's good measures about giving more support to Transnet, but we need to have the security assistance to secure Transnet too. It's positive they're going to give more money to Denel. Again, we hope that money will go to pay workers' wages. So there are some good things, but also there are quite a few gaps, and we're not sure at a macro level how is this really going to address our fundamental crises.
But then your contribution, my last question, is to say, as workers, where do we take responsibility to make our country better, to have our country better, and then have the commitment, and as well, make sure that the budget or the funds that have been budgeted for are implemented, and we have a smooth and a beautiful country.
So look, workers have been doing their bit. Nurses have been working the jobs of 2 or 3 nurses at one time, 48-hour shifts, doctors too. We have police officers getting paid very, very little money, yet expecting them to go and fight well-resourced criminal syndicates. They've been doing their level best. We've had municipal workers who have been murdered for exposing corruption. So workers have been playing their part. We've made even contributions as COSATU to say, what can we do to help reduce the Eskom debt burden? We've helped to draft a bill which is now before Parliament to allow workers who are highly indebted, public and private workers, access to the pension funds to pay off their debts. That's going to benefit the economy, it's going to benefit everybody. There are many things we've been offering as COSATU. We helped make sure during COVID-19 that we released 64 billion rand from the Unemployment Insurance Fund to help 5.5 million private sector workers who had lost wages. We've helped to push through the National Minimum Wage Act, which has helped increase the salaries of 6 million workers, but we need government to assist. If you want Home Affairs to function, we need to fill vacancies. We need to invest in the IT capacity. If you want the police to do the job, we need to reverse the headcount, which has gone from 208,000 to 172,000 in the police service, yet the population is growing, crime is growing. So government has to also cooperate, otherwise we can't do this alone. We've been doing our bit, we need to see government doing its bit as well.
And as what government says, working together, we can make our lives better. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Thank you so much. And that was Kosatu, representative in Parliament, and this is it for today. Parliament TV will always be there for you, will bring everything for you. We hope that you got information, you are a changed person, you have developed, you are educated about the MTBPS, and then from me, I would love to thank the management of Parliament, from the Secretary to Parliament, Mr. George, my boss, who is Moloto Mutapo, for support. I would love to also thank Mr. Klaso, who is the Deputy Secretary of the of the core business, as well as Ms. Chawa, who is the Deputy Secretary of Support Services, and all the DMs. I'm remembering Ms. Zungu for giving us everything that we needed. I'm remembering Dr. Gabriel for the research, and I also remember all the DMs that were there for us. I'm not going to forget Ms. Boltman, the CIO. We are connected now to you. That is those people that do the work behind the scenes. Hence, we are mentioning them today. And we do thank you for everybody that has participated and assisted this broadcast. We say good evening. See you again on Parliament TV. Let's continue to watch and make our people's lives better. From me and the crew, it's a wrap.
This book, our Constitution, protects our society and empowers us to govern. The Protea leaves are us, the people, who freely elect our voices in Parliament. The drum calls the people of Parliament, through whom we govern together. And the sun is our country, healing our past, improving our lives, and energizing our potential. Together, our Constitution, our people, our Parliament, and our country are building our great South African nation. Parliament TV, Channel 408 on DSTV. Building our great South African nation together.
The Parliament of the Republic of South